I thought retirement would bring me peace. After 30 years in construction, I bought 15 acres of Texas countryside outside Pine Hollow HOA territory. I chose the spot carefully. No committees, no neighbors complaining about the color of my truck, no power hungry busybodies telling me how to live. Or so I believed. On my very first morning, she arrived. Karen Morrison. Perfectly styled, polished like a storm cloud in heels, behind the wheel of a shiny BMW SUV. She introduced herself as the HOA president of Pine Hollow and praised my rustic cedar gate. Then she floored the accelerator and rammed straight through it, splintering wood across my driveway. She didn't even stop, just kept driving as if she owned the land. I stood there with my coffee cup, stunned, while her taillights vanished. I called the sheriff. He sighed, said Karen had community connections, and hinted I should take it up through proper channels. Proper channels for a woman who just weaponized her luxury car against my property? But Karen was untouchable. That was only the beginning. Each morning at 7:45, she returned, sometimes in the same BMW, sometimes in a heavier SUV, each time ramming the new gate I built. No matter how I reinforced it, she'd smash through again, often with clipboard-carrying inspectors, documenting supposed violations on my property. My dream of quiet mornings became a ritual of splintering wood and Karen's smug smile. Rick, my neighbor, pulled me aside one night. He whispered that Karen had been asking about my property long before her first visit, boundaries, access roads, even how long I'd owned it. She knew exactly what she was doing. And the lawyer who'd suddenly appeared at my door offering help, David Hartwell, wasn't on my side. Rick swore he'd seen him sitting next to Karen at HOA meetings. I realized I'd probably signed away protections under the guise of property agreements. My stomach turned cold. I'd invited the fox into the hen house. The more I learned, the darker it became. Karen wasn't just harassing me for kicks. She'd built a network. Rick admitted she once helped him dodge crippling HOA fines over his chickens. He owed her, like many others. Karen collected favors and debts until people felt they couldn't say no. Then Martha Stevens, a sharp attorney who specialized in messy property disputes, showed me the bigger picture. Karen had filed 17 nearly identical community access claims in recent years. The pattern was always the same: boundary disputes, escalating violations, then forced sales at bargain prices. Families like the Hendersons, the Carters, the Bradleys had all been targeted and run off their land. Some were sabotaged with cut water lines, mysterious utility failures, even a barn fire the week before they sold. Karen's brother-in-law, conveniently, was the fire marshal. This wasn't just harassment. It was organized theft, dressed up as community progress. By the time Martha laid it out, I understood I was in the crosshairs of something far bigger than one woman's power trip. Karen used fake boards with official letterheads to send violation notices. David, the lawyer, drafted documents that seemed protective but actually waived property rights. Together, they created the illusion of authority that most families didn't dare question. And then Karen used her influence to convince neighbors that resistance was selfish, while community improvements meant wealth for everyone. She was slick. At meetings, she showed maps, charts, and smiling testimonials, claiming my land was perfect for trails, gardens, even recreational facilities. Neighbors applauded. Suddenly, I wasn't just a retiree on my own ranch. I was the villain standing in the way of progress. Karen had them convinced I was the obstacle keeping them from doubling their property values. I could feel their stares shift, their patience vanish. She had turned the community against me. Then Martha uncovered the truth. Sunrise Development, the company poised to profit from this expansion, wasn't a partner. It was Karen's own shell corporation. She was planning to bulldoze my house within days, using fake emergency permits to justify demolition. The clock was ticking. If I waited on courts, I'd lose everything. That's when I decided to fight back the only way I knew how, with steel and sweat. I'd spent decades in construction. My barn still held leftover I-beams from commercial projects. I called Rick. Despite Karen's grip on him, he agreed to help. We worked by night, welding and bolting together something that looked like a normal cedar gate, but concealed 2 inches of reinforced steel plate anchored into concrete deep enough to stop a tank. From a distance, it looked like the same rustic barrier Karen had shattered a dozen times. But this time, it was unbreakable. We added one more touch: 20 feet before the gate, we laid a fake pit trap covered with plywood and grass paint. It was obvious enough to spook a driver into swerving. That was the point. Karen's arrogance would make her feel clever for avoiding it. She'd go for the gate instead, certain it was the weak spot. She'd never see the truth until it was too late. I didn't have to wait long. The very next morning, Karen called with sugar-coated venom, announcing she was bringing investors and community leaders to witness progress. She said she had arranged for a bigger vehicle, one that could smash through anything I had left. Her tone dripped with triumph. But her overconfidence was about to backfire spectacularly. At dawn, her convoy appeared, 15 cars full of officials, neighbors, and developers, cameras ready. She arrived in a massive pickup truck, its steel brush guard gleaming like a battering ram. With the crowd watching, she narrated my supposed defeat. One man's stubbornness cannot stop progress, she declared, then floored the gas. The truck slowed just before the fake pit. Karen smirked, congratulating herself on spotting my trap. She swerved wide, accelerated, and aimed straight for the wooden-looking gate. Perfect. She thought she'd outsmarted me. The collision was everything I imagined. Metal screamed. The brush guard crumpled like foil. The engine block slammed into the hidden steel, folding the front end of her truck into a smoking ruin. Coolant hissed, steam rose, and Karen's victory parade gasped in shock. Her mouth fell open in disbelief. She had avoided the fake danger only to destroy herself on the real one. I stepped onto my porch, calm as the wreckage steamed. Karen, I called. That pit was just misdirection. Welcome to 30 years of real engineering. She stumbled out, drenched in coolant, her designer outfit ruined. The cameras she'd brought to record my surrender now captured her humiliation. And then Martha appeared, flanked by county investigators holding warrants. They laid out the evidence in front of everyone. Fake boards, forged documents, fraudulent sales. Karen's entire scheme unraveled before her stunned supporters. Even her closest allies looked betrayed. Investors realized they'd been conned into funding a scam. Neighbors who had cheered her minutes before turned on her, demanding answers. By the time the sirens arrived, she was finished. Handcuffed beside her demolished truck, she screamed about progress and community, still trying to justify years of theft as civic duty. But nobody believed her anymore. David was arrested soon after. Within months, dozens of families reclaimed their land, fraudulent fines were refunded, and Karen's empire collapsed like her truck against my gate. She was sentenced to prison. David lost his law license forever. 6 months later, life is quiet again. The Cedar Gate still stands, humble on the outside, steel at its core, a reminder that strength doesn't always show. I used my settlement to fund legal aid for rural families, because the worst thing Karen stole wasn't money or land. It was certainty. And that's what I wanted to give back. Sometimes justice isn't about revenge. It's about making sure the crime never happens again. And sometimes the best defense is a gate no bully, no fraud, no fake authority can ever break through.